Hello dear students, today we'll embark on a journey of something really interesting, that is political theory. I'm sure you remember out of the two books that you will be studying in your class 11th political science, one of the books talks about the political theory and the various concepts which are included in political theory. Today we will only talk about the introduction of what is the meaning of political theory. And in doing that, let me begin from the beginning. We must understand that human beings are unique as compared to any other species on earth. Humans possess reason, they have an ability to reflect on their actions, they can use language and communicate with each other. They can express their thoughts, their desires, their ideas. Political theory has its roots in this aspect of the human being. That means political theory analyzes certain basic questions, and these basic questions relate to the human beings. For example, why should there be a society for the humans to live? How should that society be organized? Do we need a government? Why do we need a government? If there has to be a government, what kind of a government should it be? Should we be given freedom? How much of freedom is enough? What will the state, that means the government, give to its citizens? Is there anything that the citizens need to give to the government or to their fellow citizens? These are the kind of questions which will be answered when we study political theory. Something more that you study in political theory is that there are a lot of concepts which govern our lives. For example, freedom, equality, justice. Through political theory, we are able to understand the meaning of these concepts. And for understanding the definitions governing the political theory, it is important for us to go back in the past and understand what the philosophers and thinkers have said about these concepts then, and what do we understand about these concepts now. If students pursue political theory in the advanced stages also, then we also would be discussing whether the existing definitions are adequate to explain these concepts. That means out of all the definitions given in the past or in the present, to explain the meaning of concepts like freedom, equality, justice, is that enough? And if not, then what according to you should be the correct definition of these concepts? In your syllabus, this advanced level obviously is not included. So on a very limited scale, you will be studying about the various concepts through various chapters of your book, and you will be talking about the ideas given by different political thinkers in different times about the concepts that you will be studying. The basic purpose of studying these definitions and concepts is not to confuse you, but to make you humans get trained to act like a rational and logical citizen of a country, to train you to ask political questions, and also to evaluate and appraise the current events in political life which you might be witnessing. So let me quickly recap what all I have said in the last 4 minutes. Basically, political theory is a theoretical expression of the concepts governing political life, like freedom, equality, justice, etc. We need to study what was said about these concepts in the past and what is being said now. And why should we understand it? So that we are better able to understand the political life within which we are living today. Before I take you into the details of the political theory, it's important for us to discuss the meaning of politics. Some people feel that politics is what the politicians do. That means there are political leaders, they contest elections, they hold various political offices, and they kind of work as a public servant. But then there is a completely opposite view of politics also. So anybody involving himself in any manipulation or negotiations, sometimes we say that there is a lot of politics here. There are organizations, there are teams, sometimes if they, according to us, are not performing in a right spirit, we say that there is politics there. What does it mean? It means we say politics being done in a particular organization in a sense which is bad, which is negative. So now, is politics really an undesirable activity? That means it is completely bad? Or it is a worthwhile activity? That means it is required if we want to live in a society which works under certain rules and there is a government to look after the citizens of that country. So to conclude this dilemma, we need to understand that is it actually unfortunate that politics is associated with self-interest. We have to realize that politics is an integral part of any society, because if we want to live in a civilized manner, there has to be a government controlling the country, and the people who perform various duties being a part of the government are actually pursuing politics. Here it is important for me to tell you about what Mahatma Gandhi once observed. He said, politics envelops us like the coils of a snake, and there is no other way but to wrestle with it. That means no society can exist without some form of political organization and collective decision making. It is up to the society to ensure that this political organization, which I am referring to as government repeatedly, that this political organization should serve its members and not serve only the participants of that organization. In any case, when we are living in a society, there are different social institutions also which we live in. We are a part of a family or a tribe, certain economic institutions. Everywhere there is a kind of a group decision making which is required. That means there will be negotiations in each of these organizations. So can we run away from these organizations? No. But what is required is that the people who take decisions in these organizations do it with selfless care. They do it for the welfare of the other members being governed through this organization. In a country like ours, we do need governments. The government frame economic policies, foreign policies, so many other policies. So many other policies to even increase literacy and employment in the country, which is badly needed for the development of any country. And because these activities of the government affect us, therefore it is important for the citizens to understand what the government does. So probably I can say that at one level, politics involves what governments do and how they relate to people. And at the other level, it involves how people struggle and influence decision making. What is it that we study in political theory? As I've already mentioned, we talk about a lot of ideals like freedom, equality, democracy, etc. As far back as the 5th century BC, we have records of Plato and Aristotle's dialogue with their students, in which they have discussed which form of government is better, monarchy or democracy. We read about Rousseau, who was the first one to argue for freedom as a fundamental right to be given to all the people. Karl Marx mentioned that equality was as important as freedom. In India, Mahatma Gandhi, he wrote about freedom as Swaraj, and it is mentioned in his book Hind Swaraj. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he argued about the scheduled caste to be considered as minorities and they must be given some special protection. In the ancient India also, we read about the debates on various ideals and principles written by Kautilya. That means all these ideals and principles which various philosophers have discussed from time to time are to be studied in political theory by us. That means political theory deals with the ideas and principles that shape the constitution and government in a very systematic manner to lead a good social life. Therefore, it is important for a good understanding of these concepts. We must talk about how these concepts were interpreted in the past, how they are understood today, so that we have a better clarification about these ideas. Things like rule of law, separation of powers, judicial review, secularism, justice, all these things have evolved over a period of time, and the subject of political theory gives you that window of understanding and evaluating the growth of these concepts since the ancient times. Sometimes you might just think that why do we need to understand the concepts as they prevailed in the past? That means why is it important for anybody to understand what Plato or Kautilya talked about any of the concepts? Well, there is reason. The first reason is that sometimes a particular concept may be understood only narrowly in the past, and with time it is expanded to incorporate and take multi-dimensional approach. For example, if I talk about equality, or if I talk about the rights being given, the political rights being given under equality, it is just a single dimension of equality, that is the political life. But equality can also be understood in the form of economic or social sphere. So we need to have a wider understanding of the term equality so that we are in totality clear about the concept. Secondly, a topic like freedom, it may be interpreted in a new way with the passage of time. If you remember, when we talked about the fundamental rights, we mentioned the right to freedom. Now, the right to life, which is a part of the fundamental right to freedom, has been interpreted by the courts of India to include the right to livelihood also. Similarly, the right to information has also been granted through a new law within the right to freedom. That means, look at the concept of freedom getting evolved from a simple freedom, that means absence of constraints, to such a broader context like the right to getting information from the government offices. Thirdly, there can be new dimensions also, and there can be new threats also. For example, when we talk about the cyber crime, we are basically referring to something which the technology has given us to facilitate our communication, but it has also led us to understand and deal with various criminal activities, which is helping the terrorists and various criminal networks also involving themselves in data thefts, etc. So, an understanding of the global communication technology is important for us also to understand in what forms it is threatening our privacy. You might ask a question that this means political theory is all about a theoretical understanding of these concepts. Well, not really so. We can actually put this political theory to practice of our daily lives also. I'll give you this explanation through an example. Let us consider the meaning of equality. I'm sure you have already gone through this topic in your junior classes and you fairly well understand the meaning of equality. Now let me give you a situation. If you are standing in a queue and somebody jumps the queue, you feel bad about it because you feel that you deserve a right to get the first chance since you were standing in the queue in a disciplined manner. But if somebody suffers from any disability, he expects some kind of a special provision given to him. Especially if somebody has an idea of being discriminated upon, he surely looks forward to some kind of a benefit or special attention being given to him. This means that the concept of equality is not as simple as we have been studying in the past. It is much more complex. Therefore, when you will be talking about equality now under political theory, though it will be told to you from the point of view of different philosophers, you can very easily apply it into your practical lives to have a better understanding. These political theorists, they try and clarify the meaning of all these political concepts by looking at how they are understood and used in ordinary language. These debates and discussions which you will be having on these concepts will definitely give a diverse understanding, but in a very systematic manner to you all. And yes, students, I can also answer this question, oh ma'am, what is the use of studying this subject? Why should we be talking about and studying about political theory? I can answer this question as well. There are a lot of reasons. The first reason is that political theory is relevant for many segments. It is important for politicians because they practice politics. It is important for bureaucrats because they make the policies. It is important for the teachers because we teach you. It is important for lawyers and judges because they interpret the constitution and the laws. Even for activists and journalists, an understanding of political theory is important to expose exploitation and the demand for new rights. And for you students, it is obviously important because the future lies on your shoulders. Not all the concepts that you study in mathematics are applied in your everyday life. Therefore, study of political theory may not appeal to you in the beginning. I am very sure in your practical lives, when you grow up as professionals, you will definitely understand the use of this subject in your lives. Secondly, you all are going to be citizens who will be given a right to vote at the right age. You will have the key to decide on various national issues. Therefore, an understanding of the basic structure of the government is of prime importance for you as citizens. Thirdly, these concepts which I have been talking about, freedom, equality, secularism, democracy, these are not abstract, vague issues. These are the issues which you face every day. There are people who encounter discrimination of various sorts in various social organizations like family, like jobs, like business, like society, etc. So an understanding of the concepts is essential for you. And lastly, as students, I'm sure you enjoy debates and various elocution competitions. I'm sure you have rights which you value. You have opinions about what is right, what is wrong. So this political theory will only help you start thinking in a systematic manner about these concepts. Before we finish this chapter, I want you all to come on page number 8 of your NCERT. There is a passage about a dialogue between Socrates and Syphilis. Let me tell you who they are. In ancient Greek, in the city of Athens, Socrates was described as the wisest man. He was a man of reasoning and he was known for questioning and challenging the popularly held belief about various topics like society, religion, politics, etc. And because of this questioning, he was condemned to death by the rulers of Athens. He had a student called Plato, and he wrote a lot about the ideas of Socrates in his book, The Republic. So in this book opens with a dialogue between Socrates and Cephalus on the topic of justice, on the understanding of justice. Now, just as I said that Socrates, he uses reason, logic to reveal certain limitations. So he starts a discussion and on the topic of justice with Cephalus by asking a question that what is the meaning of justice? And he's answered that justice is to speak the truth and to pay your debts. Nothing more than that. So then Socrates asked, all right, if it is only about paying the debts and speaking truth, suppose a friend, when he was in his right mind, he has given you certain arms, certain weapons, he's deposited certain weapons with you. And now he is not in his mind and he has come back to you and asking for those weapons. Will you give it back to him? What do you feel, students? I am sure most of you will say no. So from here on, Socrates tries and give a logic by arguing with Cephalus as to what justice is. If you read from page number 9 onwards, the dialogue between the two, I'm sure you will get a better understanding of the topic justice. And therefore, I leave you on at this point of time by completing chapter 1 of political theory. I hope I have tried and attained some interest in the subject. I'm very sure you will enjoy it further with me. Happy learning!